Most Americans do not buy diesel every week. They do not pull into truck stops, fill tractor trailers, or pay directly for the fuel that moves refrigerated freight across the country. But diesel still sits inside the household budget. It is built into the grocery bill. It is built into delivery costs. It is built into the price of moving building materials, farm products, packaged food, and everyday goods from one place to another. That is why a diesel inventory problem can matter even to families who never touch a diesel pump. The issue is not that the country is running out of diesel. The issue is that the cushion remains thin. For the week ending June 19, 2026, the Energy Information Administration reported U.S. distillate fuel oil inventories at 106.1 million barrels. That followed a weekly build of 3.1 million barrels. But even after that increase, inventories were still about 10% below the 5-year average for this time of year. That gap matters because distillate fuel oil includes diesel fuel and heating oil. It is not just a category in a government report. It is part of the system that keeps trucks moving, farms operating, construction equipment running, goods delivered, and, in some regions, homes heated. When inventories are normal, the system has more room to absorb problems. A refinery can go offline, demand can rise during harvest. Winter heating needs can increase, exports can pull supply away. Storms can interfere with fuel logistics. But when inventories are already low, the market has less room for error. That does not mean prices must spike. It means the risk of price pressure and volatility becomes harder to dismiss. On June 22, 2026, the national average on highway diesel price was $4.832 per gallon. That was down from $5.059 1 week earlier. So, the latest signal was not a straight line crisis. Prices had eased, inventories had improved. But the broader picture remained tight. Diesel was still $1.057 higher than 1 year earlier, and inventory levels were still below normal. That is the kind of pressure that can remain in the background before it appears in everyday costs. Diesel is one of the main fuels behind the physical economy. It moves freight, it powers farm equipment, it runs construction machinery, it supports trains, boats, barges, trucks, and delivery systems. When diesel costs more, the businesses that depend on it face higher operating costs. Some can absorb those costs for a period of time, some pass them through. Some raise delivery charges, some adjust prices. Some delay purchases or accept lower margins. For households, the effect is usually indirect. It may not appear on a receipt as a separate fuel charge. Instead, it may be embedded in the price of groceries. It may be included in a delivery fee. It may be reflected in the cost of construction materials. It may be part of services that require crews, trucks, equipment, or long supply chains. This is why diesel is a hidden cost. It is not always visible, but it is difficult to avoid. The background problem did not begin with one weekly report. Earlier, the Energy Information Administration said total distillate inventories fell 17% in the first half of 2025. That was about 22 million barrels. The agency also pointed to strong export demand. U.S. distillate exports averaged 1.2 million barrels per day in the first half of 2025. That was 7% above the previous 5-year average. Exports are part of the global energy market. But when domestic inventories are low, stronger exports can make it harder to rebuild the cushion at home. The EIA also pointed to reduced renewable diesel and biodiesel supply in the first half of 2025. Consumption of renewable diesel and biodiesel fell by 124,000 barrels per day compared with the first half of 2024. That was a 35% decline. In a tight market, changes like that matter because different fuel streams affect the overall supply balance. Then there is refining capacity. Diesel does not appear simply because the economy needs it. It has to be produced, stored, transported, and delivered. The EIA cited the shutdown of LyondellBasell's Houston refinery. It also cited planned California refinery closures totaling 284,000 barrels per day over 2 years. Refinery closures do not automatically mean immediate shortages, but they can reduce future product output capacity. And when inventories are already thin, every change in capacity becomes more important. This is the hidden system behind the story. A household sees a grocery aisle, a trucker sees a diesel pump, a farmer sees equipment costs, a contractor sees machinery and material hauling. A refinery sees crude oil, output, margins, and capacity. A government report sees inventories, production, imports, exports, and products supplied. All of those pieces are connected. For the week ending June 19, 2026, the EIA reported U.S. distillate fuel production at 5.2 million barrels per day. It also reported distillate products supplied at 3.6 million barrels per day over the 4 weeks ending June 19. Imports were 135,000 barrels per day. Those are not household terms, but they describe the fuel balance behind daily life. If production, imports, inventories, exports, and demand do not align comfortably, the pressure can move downstream. That pressure can move into trucking, and trucking is central to household costs because trucks move most of the goods people use. The American Trucking Associations reported that trucks moved roughly 72.7% of U.S. freight by weight in 2024. That makes diesel more than a transportation fuel. It is an input cost for groceries, retail goods, appliances, restaurant supplies, construction materials, and basic deliveries. This is why low diesel inventories matter even when gasoline receives more attention. Gasoline is what many families buy directly. Diesel is what many families pay for indirectly. A family may notice gasoline first because it hits the card at the pump. But diesel can move through the economy quietly. It can affect the cost of getting food from farms to processors, from processors to warehouses, from warehouses to stores, and from stores to homes. It can affect the cost of refrigerated trailers carrying meat, dairy, produce, and frozen foods. It can affect farm operations during planting and harvest. It can affect construction sites where heavy equipment and hauled materials depend on diesel. It can affect small businesses that rely on deliveries, service fleets, or contractors. None of this means diesel alone explains inflation. Food prices also depend on labor, rent, packaging, fertilizer, weather, interest rates, and retail competition. Housing costs depend on many forces beyond fuel. Delivery costs depend on wages, equipment, insurance, and demand. But diesel is one of the common threads running through the physical economy. When that thread becomes more expensive or less stable, the pressure can spread. The latest inflation data shows why households may be sensitive to another energy pressure point. In May 2026, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the overall energy index rose 3.9% month-over-month and 23.5% year-over-year. Food rose 3.1% year-over-year. Those numbers do not prove diesel caused grocery inflation. They do show that households were already facing energy and food pressure at the same time diesel remained expensive compared with a year earlier. That is the middle-class problem. Cost pressure does not arrive one category at a time. It accumulates across the household budget: gasoline, groceries, electric bills, insurance, rent or mortgage payments, debt payments, repair costs, delivery fees. When one hidden input cost remains high, it adds to that stack. And when the cushion behind that input cost is thin, the risk becomes more important. The EIA's warning was direct but measured. It said lower distillate inventories elevate the risk of higher prices and price volatility from supply disruptions, especially during periods of high demand like the autumn harvest and winter heating season. That language matters. It does not say a price spike is guaranteed. It says the risk is elevated. That is the proper way to read this story. This is not a collapse. It is not a shortage panic. It is a low-cushion problem. If inventories rebuild, refinery output remains steady, demand stays manageable, and disruptions are limited, the pressure could ease. But if the system faces stronger demand, refinery problems, export pressure, weather disruption, harvest demand, or winter heating demand while inventories remain below normal, diesel prices could become more volatile. That volatility can matter to households even if they never see it directly. A trucking company may face higher fuel costs. A farmer may face higher operating costs. A grocery distributor may face higher transportation costs. A contractor may face higher equipment and hauling costs. A small business may face higher delivery costs. Eventually, some of that pressure may reach ordinary people. Not always immediately, not always fully, not always in a straight line, but the connection is real. The current picture is mixed. Inventories improved in the latest weekly report. Diesel prices fell from the prior week. Those signs should be included, not ignored. But the larger cushion is still thinner than normal. Diesel is still much more expensive than 1 year earlier, and the fuel remains tied to freight, farming, construction, heating oil, and the delivery systems behind daily life. So, the story is not that every grocery bill is about to jump because of diesel. The story is that one of the hidden cost inputs behind the household economy is still under pressure. And when that input powers trucks, farms, construction equipment, and parts of the heating market, a thin inventory cushion becomes more than an energy market detail. It becomes a warning signal inside the cost of living. For families, the question is not whether they buy diesel. Most do not. The question is how much of the economy they rely on runs on it. And the answer is more than most people see.